They called her a servant. They laughed when the prince said he loved her. But on their wedding night, the palace guards heard screams that froze their blood. By sunrise, the queen was in chains, the prince was bleeding, and a single baby's cry changed the destiny of the entire kingdom. This is the untold story of the maid who became a queen, and the secret that rewrote history forever. The Golden Kingdom of Zamunda Oba was known for two things, its breathtaking beauty, and its unbreakable traditions. In that kingdom stood a grand palace built of white marble and golden domes that sparkled under the African sun. But behind its beauty, the palace hid 1,000 secrets, and one of them was about to change history. Inside the palace worked a young maid named Nia. She was quiet, graceful, and hard-working. Her skin glowed like moonlight, and her eyes held both strength and sorrow, the kind of beauty that didn't shout, but whispered to the heart. Every morning before sunrise, Nia swept the royal corridors, polished the marble floors, and arranged the prince's garments before he awoke. And every morning, she told herself the same thing. You are just a maid. You belong to silence. But fate doesn't listen to silence. One morning, as the golden sun poured through the royal windows, Prince Jabari, the only son of King Abadil, walked into his chambers unexpectedly early. Nia, startled, dropped the tray of flowers she was arranging. "Oh, Your Highness, I'm so sorry," she stammered, kneeling to pick them up. But the prince smiled, not with pride, but with warmth. "No need to bow," he said gently. "The flowers look better where they fell. Maybe the floor needed beauty too." Nia froze, unsure if she should laugh or stay silent. No prince had ever spoken to her that way, not with softness, not with kindness. From that moment, something invisible shifted. Days turned into weeks, and somehow, every morning, Prince Jabari would, coincidentally, pass through the same corridor where Nia worked. Sometimes, he'd ask her simple questions. "Do you like the gardens? What do you dream of, Nia? Do you believe destiny can cross class?" Each time, she blushed and tried to hide her smile. But deep inside, something dangerous began to bloom, love. One evening, as the palace prepared for a royal banquet, the prince found Nia alone in the garden. The moon hung low and silver, the air filled with jasmine scent. "Nia," he said softly, stepping closer, "in this palace, everyone sees me as a crown. But when I see you, I feel human." She looked up, heart pounding. "Your Highness, please, if anyone hears you, let them," he interrupted. "For once, I want to be true." He reached for her hand, gently, carefully, as though afraid she might vanish. And she didn't pull away. That night, under the moonlight, a forbidden story began, between a prince chained by duty and a maid bound by fear. At the far end of the garden, behind the royal pillars, stood a pair of eyes burning with jealousy, Lady Ebony, the royal advisor's daughter, who had long desired the prince for herself. When she saw the prince touch Nia's hand, her heart filled with venom. She whispered to herself, "A maid stealing a crown. I'll burn her world before that happens." From that night on, Nia's life changed. Every step she took, she felt unseen eyes follow her. Servants whispered when she passed. And the prince, though careful, couldn't hide his affection, the way he smiled when she entered the room, the way his eyes softened when she spoke. Rumors began to crawl through the palace like snakes. "The maid has bewitched the prince. She's using charm. She'll bring shame to the crown." But love doesn't fear whispers, until the whispers reach the throne. One morning, the queen herself summoned Nia. Her voice was cold as marble. "Is it true," she asked, "that my son lowers his royal blood for a servant?" Nia bowed, trembling. "Your Majesty, I would never dishonor the crown." But the queen's eyes narrowed. "You already have." And with that, she ordered Nia to be banished from the palace, forever. That evening, when Prince Jabari learned of it, he defied his mother for the first time in his life. He rode out into the stormy night, shouting into the rain, "Nia, I'll find you, no matter where they hide you." And from the darkness, thunder answered, as if the heavens knew this love would soon shake the kingdom. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. And though Nia had been cast out of the palace, her name still lived within its walls, whispered by the prince's heart. Prince Jabari could not forget her. Every banquet tasted bitter. Every royal smile felt empty. Even the throne beneath him felt cold. He often rode into the nearby villages, disguised in plain clothes, searching for her in the crowd. Until one evening, under the glowing lanterns of a marketplace, he saw a familiar figure, carrying water jars, her face half covered with a scarf. "Nia," he whispered. She froze. That voice, the same voice that once called her special. She turned slowly, and when their eyes met, time itself seemed to stop. "Your Highness," she breathed, "you shouldn't be here." Don't call me that, Jabari said softly. Call me Jabari, like you used to. Her eyes filled with tears. If they find us together again, it will destroy you. But he shook his head. I don't care what they take from me, I've already lost everything when I lost you. From that day on, Jabari visited Nia in secret, sometimes under the cover of darkness, sometimes hidden in the fields beyond the palace walls. They would sit by the river, watching the fireflies flicker, and dream of a life without titles or crowns. One day, Jabari would say, I'll make you my queen, no matter what the world says. And Nia would smile sadly. A prince and a maid can't rewrite fate. Then we'll make fate rewrite itself, he said. Their love became their rebellion, soft, silent, and dangerous. But in the palace, Lady Ebony's jealousy burned hotter with every passing day. One evening, Lady Ebony approached the queen with a deep bow. Your Majesty, she began sweetly, the prince has not forgotten the maid. They meet still, in secret. The royal guards have seen it. The queen's face turned pale with fury. Impossible. After I exiled that girl. I fear it's true, Ebony interrupted. And worse, the maid carries something more than love. Rumors say she carries the prince's child. The queen's cup fell from her hand. Wine spilled across the floor like blood. If this is true, she whispered, she will not live to shame the crown. That same night, lightning split the sky as soldiers marched toward the village. Nia was inside her small hut, staring at a locket Jabari had given her, a simple golden pendant with his initials. Then came the sound, boots in the mud, torches, voices, and her heart froze. Before she could run, the soldiers burst through the door. By order of Her Majesty, you are under arrest for treason and witchcraft. No, please, I've done nothing, she cried. They dragged her out into the storm. Her screams echoed across the night, but none dared to help. By dawn, word reached Jabari. He rode faster than the wind, fury in his eyes, rain whipping his face. When he reached the royal prison, he shouted, release her, or I will tear down these walls myself. The guards hesitated, but the queen herself appeared at the gate. My son, she said coldly, you would trade your crown for a servant? I would trade the world for her, he roared. The queen's voice trembled with rage. Then you are no longer my son. And with that, she turned her back, sealing the gates behind her. Days passed. Nia sat in the darkness of her cell, her wrists bruised, her spirit fading. But she never cried. She remembered Jabari's words, even if the world forgets us, love never dies. And she held on to that. Meanwhile, Jabari went against every law of the kingdom. He bribed guards, forged documents, and planned an escape, one that could cost him his life. One moonless night, he broke into the prison. The chains, the keys, the risk, nothing mattered anymore. When he reached her cell, he whispered through the bars, Nia, it's me. She turned, eyes wide with disbelief. Jabari, you came. I'll always come for you. He unlocked her chains, took her hand, and together they ran, through tunnels, forests, and finally, beyond the kingdom's borders. For the first time, they were free. No crown, no servants, just two souls who had defied an empire for love. But freedom came with a price. The queen declared the prince dead. A new heir was named, and the kingdom moved on, unaware that their lost prince was building a new life in secret, a life that would one day rewrite history. Years pass. Far from the golden walls of Zamunda Oba, Nia and Jabari built a humble life in a quiet village by the mountain. No servants, no crowns, no whispers of royalty, just love and peace. Every morning, Nia would grind maize near their small wooden hut, while Jabari worked as a carpenter, building furniture for the villagers. And every evening, they'd sit under the stars, remembering how far they had come. Then one night, Nia placed Jabari's hand on her stomach and smiled. We're not just two anymore, she whispered. Tears filled Jabari's eyes. A new life, our life. They named their unborn child Amani, meaning peace. And for the first time, Jabari believed fate had forgiven them. But destiny never forgets what the crown loses. Back in the palace, King Abadil had grown old and weak, his health fading, his mind lost in regret. He often whispered in his sleep, bring my son back. I wronged him. But the queen would hush him. Your son chose shame over the throne. Forget him. However, one man did not forget, Chief Olamide, the king's most trusted advisor. He had always believed Prince Jabari would make a wiser, kinder ruler than the new heir, the queen's nephew, Prince Adewale, who ruled with greed and arrogance. Olamide began to search for Jabari in secret. And one day, word reached him, of a carpenter in the mountains who looked too noble for his trade. Olamide rode for 3 days until he reached the small village. There, he found Jabari carving wood under a baobab tree, a soft smile on his face. For a moment, Olamide couldn't speak. "Your Highness," he whispered finally, "you live." Jabari stood frozen, the title feeling like a ghost from another life. "I'm no prince anymore, chief. I'm just a man." "But your people suffer," Olamide insisted. "Adewale bleeds the kingdom dry. The queen's greed has turned the throne into a cage. You are the rightful king, Jabari. Come back. Save them." Nia, who had been listening from afar, felt her heart tighten. She knew this day would come, the day love would be tested by destiny. That night, Jabari sat by the fire, silent. Nia touched his shoulder. "I know what you're thinking," she said softly. "You still love your people." "I left that world, Nia. I swore I'd never return." "But maybe you didn't leave it," she whispered. "Maybe it was waiting for you to come back, when you were ready." He looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had taught him courage. And in that moment, Jabari made his choice. He would return, not for revenge, but for justice. When the news reached the palace that the lost prince was alive, the queen's world shattered. She slammed her golden cup against the floor, shouting, "No, he cannot return. He is dead to this throne." Lady Ebony, still her loyal shadow, leaned closer. "Then we must make sure he stays dead." The queen's eyes turned cold. "Do what must be done." And so, a group of assassins was sent into the night, to silence the prince before he reached the palace. Jabari and Nia began their journey back, riding through forests and rivers, carrying their child close to Nia's heart. They traveled under the stars, hiding by day, driven by faith. But one dawn, as they rested near a waterfall, the sound of hooves echoed in the distance. Arrows whistled through the air, one struck the ground beside Nia. "Ambush!" Jabari shouted. He shielded her with his body, drawing the sword Olamide had given him. The battle was fierce, steel clashing, shouts echoing through the mist. One assassin lunged at Nia, but Jabari blocked the strike and cut him down. Blood, rain, and fire mixed in the air. Finally, the last attacker fell, but not before his blade sliced Jabari's arm. He winced, bleeding heavily. Nia tore her shawl and wrapped the wound. "They'll never stop," she said through tears. "As long as the queen lives, they'll hunt us." Jabari looked toward the distant palace. "Then we end this, once and for all." When they reached the edge of the kingdom, Chief Olamide met them with loyal guards. He brought news that shocked Jabari. The king was dying, but his last wish was to see his son once more. "You must hurry," Olamide urged. "He doesn't have long." So Jabari and Nia disguised themselves and entered the palace under the cover of night. The corridors felt both familiar and foreign, echoes of memories long buried. When Jabari stepped into the king's chamber, the old man's eyes filled with tears. "My son, I knew you'd return." He took Jabari's hand weakly. "Forgive me for letting them take your love. Forgive me for being a king before a father." Jabari bowed his head. "You have nothing to ask forgiveness for, father. I only wish I'd come sooner." The king smiled faintly. "Then promise me one thing, restore honor to this crown. And protect her." His eyes shifted to Nia. He lifted a trembling hand and placed it over hers. "You are the heart of this kingdom now." Moments later, his hand fell limp. The king of Zamunda was gone. Outside, thunder roared, not from the sky, but from within the palace walls. The queen had found out her husband was dead, and that the prince she banished had returned to claim his throne. "Sound the alarms," she screamed. "He will not leave this palace alive." The palace that once sparkled with gold now trembled under fear and chaos. The king was dead. The queen had seized full control, and the people of Zamunda whispered that the kingdom's heart had died with its king. But inside those same walls, something was stirring, the return of the lost prince, hidden in shadows, carrying the love that defied a crown. When the queen discovered that Jabari was alive and inside the palace, she summoned Lady Ebony immediately. "If he lives, everything I've built crumbles," the queen hissed. "The nobles will turn on me. The crown will fall. We must act now." Lady Ebony bowed low, her eyes gleaming with cunning. "The people still believe Prince Jabari died long ago. Let's keep it that way." The queen raised a brow. "Explain. Announce a royal wedding," Ebony said. "Tell the kingdom your nephew, Prince Adewale, will marry the mysterious noblewoman who won the queen's blessing. Make it grand, make it loud. While the people celebrate, we find Jabari, and finish this in silence." The queen smiled coldly. "Clever girl." And so, preparations for the royal wedding began, banners, music, and gold spread through the kingdom. But the bride had no name. Meanwhile, Jabari and Nia hid in a secret chamber beneath the palace, guarded by Chief Olamide and a handful of loyal men. Nia's belly had grown, she was almost ready to bring their child into the world. You cannot fight them now, Olamide warned. They control the guards, the court, the crown. Then I'll fight with truth, Jabari said. The people think I'm dead. But if they see me, if they hear me, they'll know who their true king is. Olamide hesitated. The queen won't let you speak. Then I'll make her listen, Jabari replied, his voice calm but firm. Nia looked at him, fear in her eyes. Promise me one thing, Jabari. If anything happens, protect our child. He took her hands gently. Nothing will happen to you, Nia. I swear it on my father's crown. The day of the royal wedding arrived, drums thundered across the city, crowds flooded the streets, and the palace shimmered under the golden sun. Trumpets announced the queen's arrival, her gown glittering like molten gold. Beside her stood Prince Adewale, proud and smug, his smile hiding cruelty. The courtiers bowed, whispering, Adewale will rule now. The throne has moved on. But among the crowd, Olamide and a few loyal guards moved silently, preparing for the moment that would change everything. When the queen stepped onto the stage to present the bride, gasps filled the courtyard. A woman walked out, veiled in white, her face hidden, her steps slow. The queen raised her hand proudly. People of Zamunda Oba, behold the union that will secure our kingdom's future. The crowd cheered. But then, the bride lifted her veil, and silence swept through the air. It wasn't a noblewoman. It wasn't any woman of the court. It was Nia. The queen froze, her mouth opening in shock. No, no. Guards, seize her. But before anyone could move, a voice boomed across the courtyard. Touch her, and you touch your true king. Every head turned, and there he was, Prince Jabari, alive, standing tall, wearing his father's royal pendant, eyes blazing with courage. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some cheered, some gasped. The queen's face turned white as marble. Impossible, she hissed. You were supposed to be dead. You tried, Jabari said, stepping forward. But truth doesn't die with your lies. He turned to the crowd. People of Zamunda Oba, I was cast out for loving a woman of humble heart. I was hunted, betrayed, nearly killed, not because I was unworthy, but because I refused to let a crown destroy love. The people murmured. Adewale's face twisted with rage. You dare come here and claim my throne? It was never yours, Jabari said firmly. The king's blood runs in me, and in my child. He gestured toward Nia, who stood strong despite her fear. Her hands rested gently over her stomach. The queen's eyes widened. No, no, she screamed. A child of filth will not sit on my throne. She grabbed a dagger from a guard's belt and charged straight toward Nia. The crowd screamed. But before the blade could strike, Jabari stepped between them. Steel met flesh. He gasped, the dagger buried in his side. Jabari! Nia cried, catching him as he fell to his knees. The queen dropped the dagger, trembling. The crowd roared in horror. Olamide rushed forward, shouting, Seize the queen, she has killed her son. Guards surrounded her. The people's cheers turned to fury. Cries echoed, Long live Prince Jabari, long live the true king. Jabari, bleeding, reached for Nia's hand. Don't cry, he whispered weakly. Our love didn't end here, it began here. She held him close, sobbing. Please, stay with me. You can't leave now. He smiled faintly. Look at them, Nia. They finally see, love was never our shame. It was our crown. The sky above darkened, not in sorrow, but in storm. And when the thunder rolled, it sounded almost like applause. Nia leaned close and kissed his forehead. You've already changed history, Jabari. But destiny was not finished yet. Because that night, as the queen was imprisoned and the kingdom mourned, Nia's labor pains began. And before dawn, a new cry filled the palace halls, the cry of a newborn child. A prince, a symbol of love that refused to die. The rain began before dawn. It was soft at first, then heavy, washing the blood from the palace steps as if the heavens themselves wanted to start again. Inside, the midwives rushed through the royal chambers, whispering prayers. A single candle burned beside the bed where Nia lay, her face pale but determined. Hold on, Your Grace, one of the women pleaded. You must live, for the child. Outside the chamber, Chief Olamide stood guard while the court gathered in silence. The queen sat in chains, her head bowed, eyes fixed on the floor. The once proud ruler who had commanded fear now looked small, broken. In the corner, Prince Jabari fought for breath on a cot. The royal physician pressed a cloth against the wound that still bled from his mother's dagger. Your Majesty, you must rest, the man said. The pain. No, Jabari whispered. I have to see her. I have to see my son. Then it came, a cry that split the silence. High, pure, alive. A baby's cry. The midwife ran to the doorway, tears in her eyes. It's a boy. The hall erupted with gasps and sobs of joy. Even the guards who had once doubted the prince bowed their heads. Olamide smiled through tears. A new heir. The kingdom lives again. Jabari tried to stand, pain tearing through him. Take me to them. 2 guards helped him to Nia's bedside. She was weak, but when she saw him, her face lit like dawn. In her arms, the baby slept, tiny hands curled, wrapped in a blanket embroidered with the royal crest. He looks like you, Nia whispered. No, Jabari said softly. He looks like hope. He reached for the child, held him close, and whispered the name he and Nia had chosen long ago. Amani, peace. The name echoed through the chamber like a blessing. Moments later, footsteps approached. The queen, escorted in chains. Her face streaked with tears, her crown gone, her power vanished. Jabari, she whispered. My son. He looked at her quietly. The guards tense, but he raised a weak hand. Let her speak. She sank to her knees beside his bed. I wanted to protect the throne. I lost sight of love, of you. Can a mother still be forgiven? Jabari looked down at the newborn in his arms, then back at her. If a crown can rise again after breaking, so can a heart. He reached out, placing the baby in her trembling arms. Hold your grandson, mother. His first lesson should be forgiveness. The queen sobbed, pressing the child to her chest. For the first time in her reign, she felt what true royalty meant, not control, but mercy. By morning, the storm had passed. The kingdom gathered in the courtyard as Jabari, pale but standing, addressed his people. My father ruled with wisdom. My mother ruled with strength. But today, we must rule with love. The child you hear crying within these walls is not just my heir, he is the voice of a new era. The crowd fell silent, moved by his words. There will be no more walls between rich and poor, master and servant. We will build a kingdom where no love is forbidden, and no heart is judged by birth. Cheers erupted. Long live King Jabari. Long live Queen Nia. Long live Prince Amani. That night, the torches of the palace burned brighter than ever before. Songs were sung of the maid who became a queen, of the prince who bled for love, and of the child who brought peace. Generations later, storytellers still begin their tales with the same words. Once, in the kingdom of Zamunda Oba, a maid fell in love with a prince, and what happened on their wedding night changed history forever. And when they tell it, the wind still carries the echo of a single promise whispered long ago beneath the moonlight. Love will always be our crown.